Few things affect people more than the topic of money. Yet we don't talk much about it. We trudge along and hope things will work out, but never really know for sure. I think it's time for some answers. Hi, I'm Tom Stone, and welcome to Talking About Dollars and Sensibility. Today's show is brought to you by Guild Mortgage Company, closing loans and opening doors since 1960. We're located at 175 North Main Street, right here in Heber City. And our phone number is easy. It's 435-654-9979. 654-9979. Or just come by and see us. We're located right next to the car wash on Main Street on the 200 North Block. Today, I've invited Johnathan Burton. Johnathan, welcome.
Well, thanks for having me, Tom.
Now, Johnathan, I want to make sure people know who you are, because you're just one of those famous people, but maybe they've heard the name and they're not sure who you are. Johnathan, tell us about yourself a little bit.
Well, I grew up here. I graduated over 20 years ago from Wasatch High. And
so that makes you on the older scale of things. Got
not
it.
as old as you, but old, yes.
That's true. That's
and
true.
I grew up in Charleston, moved away for 11 or 12 years, and then brought my family back, and I actually live here on Casperville Road there in Charleston again.
How many kids do you have?
I have 4 kids, freshman in high school is the oldest, and then a kindergartner, the youngest.
Now, this is just because people like to say, oh, that's so-and-so's boy. Who's your dad?
My dad is Dr. Burton,
Dr.
and so
Burton.
he's probably stitched a lot of you up.
There might be a few of you who have talked to Dr. Burton, and he may know you a little more intimately than some other people might know. Now, I have a question, just kind of curiosity here. So, Johnathan, you watched your dad growing up. He's a doctor. You know, doctor's one of those professions that people kind of go, ooh, that's cool. You know, he's a doctor and successful situations. And you didn't choose that path.
I did not choose that path, but I thought I was going to.
You did.
When I was growing up, that's what I was, pre-med. I served a mission for the LDS Church in Japan, and while I was over there, I realized, you know what, maybe doctor's not the right path for me. I saw my dad. He worked a lot of hours, a lot of nights, back when there were only 3 doctors in the valley, so they had to be on call every third night. And so I watched the long hours he worked, and when I got home from my mission, he had me come in, got permission for me to come into some of the surgeries he performed, and I about passed out twice. And that's when I kind of decided, you know what, this might not be the right path for me.
And somewhere around that time, you decided, I'm going to take a different path.
So I did, yeah. I went to BYU, got my undergraduate degree in public relations, and I started working at a PR.
Is that one of those worthless degrees?
Yeah, basically.
Is it? Okay.
Well, to be honest, Tom, I was at college, and I had gotten some of my prerequisites done, and I could not make up my mind what I was going to major in. And I finally decided this was the major because it was almost the least amount of additional classes I would have to take to graduate. I just wanted to graduate and get on.
How fast can I get this thing over with?
Exactly. So that's what I did, and I started working for a PR firm, and then I wanted more. I wanted more of the business. So I went back and got my MBA from BYU as well.
For those of us who may not know, what is an MBA and what does it entail and what does it give you?
An MBA is a Master's of Business Association, and it's or administration rather. And what it does is it just gives you an overarching view of business and how to run a business and manage a business.
Do you feel like that was beneficial?
It was.
Would you recommend it?
I would recommend it. I would. When I graduated with my MBA, I had opportunities to go work for some bigger corporations, and many of my colleagues did. And I flew back east and interviewed some with Dow Chemical and for some of these bigger companies. And my colleagues took those big jobs, but I did not. I won.
Why in the world did you not jump at the chance?
Because I have a disease, Tom.
Yes.
And it's called entrepreneurship.
Yes, you do.
I wanted to start my own company, and so I liked the small business feel. So I started working for smaller businesses, and I went that route.
Now, you called it a disease. Why would you call that a disease?
I was talking to a good friend just recently that was going to make this jump. He has a very secure job, high-paying job, and he was just asking me, I just want to do this. And I said, well, I'll just warn you. Make sure you want to do it, because once you make that jump, you won't go back. You won't go back. And it's a good thing and it's a bad thing. It is a challenging thing, but it's a disease. You can't get it out of your system, and once you taste that, in my experience anyhow, is that I can't go back.
So I assume you made that decision to turn down Big Dow Chemicals. You started being an entrepreneur, and wham, bam, you're successful. Is that correct?
No.
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 Well, let's hear about this a little bit.
No, yeah, I've had many ventures. A good friend of mine, John Prope, he and I started a company that was electronic medical record software for jails and prisons. And that was actually quite successful, and I enjoyed that, and I got out of that and tried all these other options, and yeah, it's been a long road. It's a hard path and challenging, and you have to do a lot of sales, you have to do a lot of cold calling, you have to get out of your comfort zone a lot. And no, it hasn't been an easy path by any stretch. The easier path would have been the high corporate paying job.
So you still got to explain that, because you just talked about stuff that most people get out of your comfort zone and cold calling, uncomfortable, yet you like it.
I do, and that's why it's a disease.
What is the problem?
Sometimes you wonder, why in the world am I doing this? And I have to apologize to my wife sometimes that I should have just been a postman. Yeah, all the time. Okay, you know her, you know. But yeah, it is challenging, and you have to be willing to step off that ledge, to dive into the deep end and figure it out as you go, because it's not laid out before you. It's not comfortable by any stretch. And there's stress involved there, but you have to be willing to do it.
So I need you to kind of put two things together, or maybe not. So you graduate with a master's of business. That sounds like you must be pretty smart in business.
No, but go ahead.
You got you have a master's degree in business.
Okay.
You decide to become an entrepreneur, yet it wasn't immediate success. Why? Why not? I mean, if you get educated enough, shouldn't you have that recipe of success? They tell you exactly what to get and go do, and then you get successful?
Well, education's one thing. Real world experience is another, for sure. And I would say my MBA, the education, was valuable in the relationships I created. As far as the know-how, it helped me. It helped me give the confidence, helped me give the basic foundation to grow. But it's an entirely different thing when you're making those hard decisions, when you're cold calling those businesses, when you're sitting down trying to develop your business plan and figure out really, how am I going to make this happen? That takes it to a whole new level.
Just a question, and sincerely, I don't have an answer for this. I'm wondering. So as an MBA, do you think an MBA is better for that person who is maybe going the corporate route versus the entrepreneur route?
Definitely.
Okay.
Definitely, yeah. I think education, the corporate world values that greatly, and so you're going to get paid more. You're going to advance up the corporate ladder faster with that degree behind your name. In the entrepreneurial world, what it does provide, though, is insurance. If and when you've had enough and you're crying uncle, and the stress is too much, or you just don't want to do it anymore, then having that degree will enable you to fall back into a job, and that will help you get a job at that point. But as far as running the business and being an entrepreneur, yeah, I don't think it's terribly valuable, frankly.
Got it. I think that makes sense. An insurance policy, you're right. Just in case I need to go get a job, I can have these degrees behind me to make me look good and go get a job.
Exactly.
Of course, you have this addiction/disease going on, and that may not last forever.
It may not.
You may have to, I'll do the real job, and you'll say, okay, I'm back.
My wife probably hopes it doesn't.
My dad would say something like this about your wife. Bless her heart.
Yes.
In fact, I wrote down a question. How is your wife with all of this? How's your family?
She's great. My wife is wonderful. She is unbelievably supportive, and she understands that I'm happier when I'm doing this, even though there are the challenges and the stress with it. But she is unbelievably supportive, and she puts my needs in front of hers. Bless her heart, as you said. But yeah, she's been unbelievably supportive, and the kids have been good. Tyler, my oldest, who's in high school, he sometimes says, gosh, you're busy and you're doing this, and but the kids have been good too.
So I have another question. So Johnathan and I know each other pretty well. We've had a lot of time to chat. And so there's a thing that I asked Johnathan once. I said, Johnathan, what do you want? And the answer you gave to me, in fact, we went through my steps of dollars and sensibility.
We
that I
did.
do.
That was helpful.
And number one question is, what do you want? And what was your answer to that? I want, and you wanted two things specifically. I know you had a laundry list, but you had some emotions that you were looking
Oh,
for.
you're gonna have to help me out here. I think freedom and options.
That's what you said.
Was what I said. Yeah, I love freedom and I love options. Freedom being, I want to do it my way. I want to do it how I want to do it. I want to be free to do things how I want to do it. In the corporate world that I did work in, I had ideas and I had things that I thought were great and I wanted to implement them, but boy, the bureaucracy and the red tape you had to cut through to be able to do that. It would take a year to be able to get your idea off the ground. And I love the freedom, just, boy, this is a good idea. Let's run with it. And I can run with it. And options was the second one. And that's just, again, they're closely related, but I just want options. I want options both with my work environment and my personal life.
So explain to me, and I understand what you're saying, but I want you to explain it. You just want freedom and options, but yet you said the entrepreneur route has a lot of hard work and more hours and headaches and frustrations. So tell me how freedom and options work with this. I work harder and there's a lot more gambling and...
Well, somebody once told me, I love owning my own business because I get to choose the 20 of the 24 hours I work. Which of the 20, so you work so hard, but you do get to choose when you work and how you work, and that freedom is valuable to me.
Can you shut your mind down?
That is a challenge. That is a challenge. And when everything hinges on you, when you are the decision maker for all of those things, to be able to turn it off at night is a difficult thing.
Yeah.
It really is. Another good friend of mine, which I know he's your good friend too, and you might catch who this is, but he used to tell me when he would come home from work, he would stop, on his way home from work, he would stop, I believe it was the Charleston Bridge.
Yep.
And he would have this internal discussion with himself, have I turned it off and am I ready to go home and be a dad and a husband? And if he wasn't, he would get back, he would drive around
the block a couple times.
Around the block a couple times and then stop again and ask himself that question. And that was the great story, and that's helped me out. But yeah, to be able to turn that off is a challenge. It really is, because boy, there's a lot on your mind. You need to do this, you need to do that, and it's easy when you get home to fire up that laptop and to keep working away. But you have to turn it off. You have to have balance.
Or take out your frustrations on your family.
Exactly.
Be short with them because you've had a long day with a lot of decisions to make, and they're still cranking in your mind, and
for sure,
little kids run up to you and need stuff, and you're like, not now.
Exactly.
And then it starts off a
negative
negative feeling.
Yep.
You seen any pitfalls in your career choice to date that you could warn anybody about? If I was to do it over, I would, just to date. We've got some future conversation to have about where you're at, but some things looking back that you would do over?
Oh, I think I think one of the pitfalls is you've always got to get everything in writing and do it right. Oftentimes, hey, he's a buddy of mine. We're going to do this business, handshake. We trust that, and I think for everybody's benefit and your friendship's benefit, boy, get that in writing, because if it wasn't in writing, it was never said.
You just said buddy and friendship, but aren't those the guys you trust?
They are, and you do need to have that trust, but because you value that friendship, you've got to get it down in writing, and you've got to do it the right way, and that might be a little awkward up front, but you've got to do that.
Because why?
Because when things happen and you start making money or you don't start making money, tension rises. Either way, by the way. When money comes in, boy, the stress rises, because then you want more of it. And if money doesn't come in, then everybody's stressed out. And so if you don't have that clearly in writing, a buy-sell agreement or whatever it may be, you have to have that in writing, because then it's clear. And then the friendship will be able to be saved.
So if you're going to grow a business or expand a business or bring a partner on, all those kind of things, and you mentioned you liked freedom and options, and basically what I heard you say is I like to be the one who kind of calls the shots a little bit.
Yeah, it sounds like I'm power hungry, though, doesn't it?
Well, I didn't want to say that out loud. But understandable. Hey, I've built this thing from the ground up, but you need somebody who can help take some of that burden off of you. Do you go get somebody, or is there somebody else who is the same personality, or do you need someone who is more of subordinate was the word that came to my mind. Some sort of a, I'm okay being second fiddle, but if you get two personalities that are both strong-willed, and because you get, hey, I want the direction of the company to go this way, and no, I want it to go this way, happens.
No, good question. I think that depends on the personality of you, of me. And for me, I want that stronger personality that can lead me, that can guide me, that shares and openly shares that different viewpoint, because I want that.
You will listen then.
I will listen. I do not want the subordinate that just says yes, sir, and does exactly what I want, because I don't feel that will benefit our company like somebody that shares a little different viewpoint that we can sit down and discuss and determine based on my viewpoints and his or hers which way we ought to go. So I think that really depends on the personality of. See, does that make me less power hungry?
That sounded pretty good, actually. I think you just recovered a little bit.
Okay,
That was
good.
very good.
Good.
And I think it was even honest, to be honest with you.
Okay, thanks.
I think it's time that we actually introduce this business idea. Now,
Okay.
you've gone through a lot of businesses.
I have.
How many?
Boy, it's bad that I can't even count, huh?
We'll leave it at that. You can tell us if you want, but
I don't know. It's probably 10.
10 companies.
Probably 10 different
Started
companies.
over and over
Yeah,
again,
yeah.
hoping and thinking, but something doesn't work. And what makes it not work? They're probably all good ideas.
Yeah, a lot of them are good ideas. A lot of them just aren't. They're good ideas, but there's no money to back them. Other ones, I did run into some partner issues and stuff like that I just walked away from. And so there's a variety of reasons why they didn't work. And some did work. Some were successful out of those. And so variety of reasons, Tom.
Okay, before I go there,
Okay.
I have to let everyone know that this is KTMP 1340 AM, and it's your hometown radio station. Today's show is brought to you by Guild Mortgage Company. Your loan, on time, every time. So this is what I want to know. I want to know, after 10 businesses that did and did not work, and I learned from, you now have one.
I do. It's a fun one.
Tell us about it, and how in the world did this happen? I know the concept, and I'm still like, are you serious? You got to do something that actually helps people?
Well, Steve Jobs once gave a talk, and he said you need to connect the dots in your life. And, I had mentioned before I had started that software company that tracked the medical information of all the inmates in jails and traveled around the country with that. And I got to very familiar with the correctional space. And so when I left that, I started teaching inmates in jails. I would go into a jail, and they would literally lock me in a room with 12 inmates, and I would teach them life skills and just life in general. And I really enjoyed that. There wasn't a lot of money in that. And then, I've created a business.
By the way, before you go there, why did you enjoy hanging out in prison with prisoners?
Oh, that is a tough question to answer.
That's not necessarily someone's bucket list, per se.
No, but a jail and a prison's an interesting place. 85 roughly % of all inmates, especially in jails, are drug related. The drugs are running their life. They did something because of the drugs. And so once you get past that, once you break that down, these guys are just like you and I. The drug has just been running their life. And so I thoroughly enjoyed just getting to know them. I cared. They knew that. So they responded well because they're not used to people caring in that environment. So I really loved it. I just love that, and I know you do too. You do a similar thing as well. But
okay, keep going. I'm sorry to interrupt.
So
you.
anyway, then I and by the way, to that note, I at one of these points along the way, again the insurance, falling back on my degree, when I'd kind of I needed a break from the entrepreneurial world. I did step back into and was the COO of a genealogy company, and I tell people, and I hope I don't offend many of your listeners, that I fit in better with the correctional crowd than the genealogy crowd, and I really do. I just felt at home with them and talking with them. So anyways, I'm skipping a few chapters there, but started a company that helped kids with learning disabilities, and then I learned from a cousin about a government program called vocational rehabilitation.
Mm-hmm.
And what this is this is a free government program with anybody that has a diagnosable disability that makes it hard for them to get a job,
Such as?
such as physical or mental disability. Physical, the spectrum would be on one end Down syndrome, cerebral palsy, intellectual delay, spina bifida. On the other end of the spectrum, you've got ADD, ADHD, anxiety, dyslexia, depression. Substance abuse can also qualify. So any of those diagnosable disability that again makes it hard for them to get a job, and they can use our services and they want to use our services. Those are the 4 criteria. And what the vocational rehabilitation does is the government pays to help these individuals get employed. And
Is that state or federal?
it is a state program, but it's 80% federally funded.
Okay.
And
But governed through the state.
Governed through the state, exactly. And so, again, back to connecting the dots with Steve Jobs, so many of the inmates, 80+% of inmates have learning disabilities or some type of disability that would fit in this category. And so again, connecting those dots, I thought, my goodness, this might be a way for me to do what I love to do and help these individuals get jobs. And so I started a company called Innovative Harbor. And what it does is it helps transition-aged kids, 16, 22, up to maybe 24, 16 to 24, that are transitioning from high school out into the real world. It helps them get successfully employed. And really, that's what I have done. I started that company, and I went to the state, and we have a pilot that we might get into that has gone very well. And I've been doing this almost 2 years. And I work with kids here in our valley. I work with kids in juvenile justice. I work with kids up at Job Corps and alternative high schools kind of throughout the Salt Lake area. And I just love it because, as you mentioned, I just get to help these kids.
So you actually get to help people, and you get paid to do it.
And I get paid to do it. How about that?
Tell us how that works. So you get paid, and tell me you have certain steps they have to go through. For example, I know if you get an assessment done, and if you try, and kind of go us through those steps a little bit.
Well, let me take a step back a little bit with vocational rehabilitation, just to provide a little more background. What would benefit someone that had a diagnosable disability, and this is for adults as well, by the way. My company just focuses on the transition-aged youth, but adults would also qualify for this, is they can, once they're eligible, then the voc rehab counselor can determine, I'm going to have Johnathan's company or some other company provide an assessment, employability assessment, where we spend 8 hours really putting our arms around the individual, their strengths, their limitations. We talk to the parents, we talk to teachers, we talk to all those people around them and figure out, what they need to be successfully employed. And then the voc rehab counselor might determine, for this individual, we're going to go the training route, which means the government would help pay for them to go and get trained to become a welder, because that's really where their skill set is. And then they could use those funds to be trained to become a welder. Or if they are already trained, or if they want another job, they would pay me to go help them get a job. So there's certain milestones that I meet with the state that, I do the assessment, and then I look out in the community for a job. When I get them placed, they pay me a certain fee. And then if I need a job coach with them, which I go there with them on the job site and help them along, then they'll pay me to do that. And so that's kind of how it works with the government.
What is Why Try?
So Why Try, right when I started doing this, I mentioned teaching the inmates. I taught them a program called Why Try. And what it is it's a social and emotional intelligence course. In our schools, we focus so much on IQ.
So say that again.
Writing.
This is social and emotional intelligence.
And I call it EQ.
EQ.
Social and emotional intelligence. Tom, it's how we interact with others. It's how we control our own emotions. It's how we handle our anger, how we respond to challenges in life. It's that social and emotional intelligence. And that is, studies show that's 3 times more likely to determine success than IQ.
I completely agree with that.
And so that's the class, and I just love this class. And that's what I had taught the inmates over the years, 10 years or so ago when I started doing that. And so I had been job coaching through vocational rehabilitation and my company, Innovative Harbor, for a few months, and I realized, you know what? Before we get these kids jobs, they need this social and emotional intelligence, because I can throw them into a job right now that's a great job, but will they know how to respond when a coworker says something
They
rude
might
to
lose
them?
the job.
Exactly.
Yep.
And when they want to, when their anxiety and depression gets high, and they don't want to get out of bed, they're going to lose their job. So I realized very quickly that, I think these kids need this Why Try program. So I approached the state, and I talked to various meetings and various people, and I said, you know what, I would like to propose that I teach this 20-hour course before I get these kids jobs. And the state loved it, and they said, let's run a pilot. And we did the pilot all of 2013, and they just decided to extend it through the end of 2014. So we take these kids through a 20-hour course where we show them these visual principles of social and emotional intelligence.
Give me an example.
One example is, one of the visuals is a can. And on the can, it has this label on it, and it says lazy, dumb, stupid, druggy, sluffer. Sluffer's a Utah term, but and gangbanger, all of these labels. And society is so good at slapping labels on all of us.
Quickly.
And the principle is you got to tear that label off. So we talk about how to tear that label off. And these kids, whatever labels society is giving to them or that they've given to themselves, the fear is that they believe in those labels. They start living up to those labels. Well, I didn't study because I'm dumb.
Yeah.
I can't get that job because I'm lazy. No, that's not true. So we teach them how to tear those labels off and let the real them shine.
Cool. So I'm going to give my little 2 cents here, and I want you to add to this. So the purpose of this radio show really is to have people listen and gain information and skills and say, oh, that's how that works, or, oh, that's what's going on. That's one of the purposes anyway. And I've been fascinated that we will spend a lot of time and effort and money on things that have always been. For example, I guess this is one of those, I'm trying to explain it. When you have something like this intangible social and emotional intelligence, for example, and how do you quantify it? A GPA is pretty easy. I have a 3.4 GPA. Well, that means you're half smart. I have a 4.0, it means you're real smart. Your social and emotional intelligence, where's your number? What's your number? It's hard to do. But yet, you just told me this is 3 times more important. We don't spend a lot of time in our society working on this. In fact, I'll just go there. Everyone, that gets married, you just kind of do the best you can. Well, how come we don't all of us go to marriage counseling? You never been married before. You might as well, go and get someone to give you some clues and some.
So why wait till there's a problem?
Yeah, and if I say I'm in marriage counseling, everyone assumes what? Oh, you're in trouble.
Yeah, exactly.
I have a kid, and why do I just try and figure it out as I go? Why wouldn't I go to some professionals or some classes or some experience or ask a ton of questions about, these kids that I'm having as I'm now a father? Now what? And you basically just do it the way your dad did it or your mom did it or the way you've seen other people do it, which may or may not, and mostly may not, be truly what works. And so in our society, there are so many critical skills that we don't know how to quantify, and it's not really been offered, and so we just go along. Part of my phrase when I start the show about money is, few things affect people more than money, yet we don't talk much about it. We trudge along and hope it'll work out, but never really know for sure. I think it's time for some answers. This is so critical, especially, I'm sorry, but the old-timers, just toughen up and keep on rolling, and no question that is a principle that needs to be learned because, some people are too soft. But yet, why don't you sit back and say, wait a minute, could I do this better?
Yeah.
And I personally may not have all the skills. Anyway, so that's my little 2 cents as you're talking, that I know what Johnathan's up to and what he's been doing, and I think it's the coolest thing in the whole world. Now, Johnathan, with that little thing, your lead in here is, why would the state pay you to do this? These are people are listening and saying, that's my tax dollars.
Yes, good question.
That's your tax dollars, and why is Johnathan getting, some money off of doing this kind of stuff? Why would they do that?
The statistics show that for every dollar they put into this program, they get $5 on the back end, because now these kids and these adults are now they have a job, they're paying taxes, they're out of the system. And so really it's a government program that really makes a whole lot of sense.
That one makes sense.
Yeah, it makes money on the back end.
1 to 5, you said.
$1 put in, and we get $5 on the back end. Yep.
So there's a quantifiable equation to use this social emotional intelligence may actually work.
Yeah.
Now they extended it for another year because what did they see? What have you been seeing the last year? Give me some stories.
Boy, we've seen a lot. We've been able to help. I don't know. We're working with about almost 100 kids now. And we hope to be able to help 1,000 kids in the next couple of years get into successful employment. And these kids, a lot of them are at risk. A lot of them are troubled.
Tell me about the 7 of the 8 kids that were in the system.
Yes, we had 8 kids in Salt Lake. And again, I think it's okay to say this, but of these 8 kids, 4 were sex offenders and 4 were gang members. So these were not.
This is serious stuff.
These are serious stuff. And these kids, many of them cannot go home because of what they've done in the past. So they're 16, 17, 18 years old, and they can't go home. And so to try and get them jobs is pretty hard. But we've been able to.
You have to tell the employer, by the way?
Yeah. No, you do not have to, because they're juveniles.
Okay. But after 18, you do.
Disclose that. After 18, you would.
Got it.
Absolutely.
Okay. Keep going.
You do not, because they're juveniles. But of the 8 kids that got out, we were able to successfully place 7 of them. One decided to steal a car and go to Wyoming, so he's now locked up again. But we taught these 8 boys this Y-Try program, and 7 of the 8 are still employed, and some of them have been employed over 3 months, some 1 month. But that's a pretty good.
What kind of jobs are they getting?
Oh gosh, everything. One wanted to become a machinist. So he's got a machinist job. One, 16, so not a lot of experience, work experience at all. Works in Little Caesars. Another one really wanted to get into bikes, so we got him a job at a bike shop with an owner that really cares about him and that wants to keep him out of the gang mentality. And so just a wide variety of jobs. But these kids, they were soaking it up. They were soaking the Y-Try up, and so appreciative of what we were doing for them.
Why would a gang member, I guess you could say even a gang banger, sit in a classroom for 20 hours and look at a can and say, rip off your label? Isn't that too, I don't know what word to use, pansy, too stupid?
Yeah.
Tell me the reaction you get, when that's a tough guy like that sitting in a class and saying, take off your label off your can.
Well, I had that a lot when I taught it in jails to adults. These big tough guys that were bigger than me, believe it or not.
Really?
Yeah.
More than 150 pounds. Wow.
But they would, I would get that, and they would say, why are you showing them these cheesy pictures? And the reason they related to it, Tom, was because it's real. It's real life. The principles behind it. It's not about the picture. It's the principles behind it. It's the fact that they can relate because they have had labels slapped on them. And they want to tear them off because they know it's not the real them. And so they can relate to the experiences, and the discussions we have are unbelievable. In fact, just here at the local alternative high school, there was a young man that we helped last year take the course, and let's just say he doesn't like to go to school. Yeah. And he loved Y-Try, and in fact, this year he's wanted to attend it more. And one of the administrators at the alternative high school said, Johnathan, I don't know what you're doing, but we can't get this kid to do anything, and he loves your class. Which, by the way, he is supervising in his job right now, and is doing phenomenally well. And awesome. just the self-confidence and self-worth he's gained from that has been tremendous. Yeah.
Huh.
So I don't even know what you asked. I just kind of rambled there.
I wanted
Did I
some
answer
stories.
Your question? Oh, stories.
I wanted some stories.
I kind of told some stories. Another young lady that I just think the world of. Huge anxiety. Could not really function much at all. Wasn't going to a lot of school, and just couldn't get out of bed. And we've worked with her for quite some time, and she has a job now at a local grocery store and has really come out of her shell. And this is a girl that we wondered about finishing high school, and wondered about a lot of things in life with her. And she just recently told me, Johnathan, can you help me? I don't know how to do college. Like, I think I want to go to college. Can you help me with this whole college thing? And I just said, absolutely.
So
I'd
you've
love to.
opened a door. Well, excuse me. You stood by the side of the person, maybe put your arm around them and help them turn the knob, opened a door, and the door you opened, to me, if I was just to put one word on it, would be confidence.
Yeah, yeah.
And from that, they can choose this job, a better job, education, skill level.
Exactly. I think, giving them the emotional and social intelligence enables them to have the confidence to open the door themselves and to proceed. And yeah, we hope our company motto is, changing lives. We want to change lives.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what we hope to do with these kids. And a kid in juvenile justice, even though he's made some horrible decisions, he's got his whole life ahead of him. And boy, if he can just make a few good changes in life right now at 16 and get a good job where he gets that confidence, that could impact him the rest of his life.
So do you like your job?
I love my job. I really love my job.
So each morning you get up and you say, I get to change lives, I
get
guess.
to change lives.
Your model's a real one.
I get to go hang out with these kids and change lives. Now, it's stressful.
Yeah.
And you've got the whole, as we're in this growing phase, adding employees and feeling the weight of taking care of those employees and making sure their families are taken care of.
Who are your employees? Who are you hiring? What kind of people are you hiring?
I'm hiring most of my employees right now, they have a psychology degree, ironically. But I am hiring people that have a huge interest in helping these kids. That's the main thing is they need to share in my vision, share with my passion with helping these kids. The age varies. I have a man in Salt Lake that's working with me that has been in insurance for 15 years. But before that, he worked in social work, and he wanted to join me, so I've hired him. I've got Corbin Raymond here in Heber that just is from Midway, and he has a degree in psychology, and he's doing a great job here. And so just a wide variety.
Tell me your 5-year plan. You're going to have how many employees, and what's your company going to look like?
Like I said, in the next couple of years, we want to help 1,000 kids. That's our goal, and we want to branch out into really other sectors, other areas of government and the private sector, and really launch what we're doing with Y-Try and job placement and development and coaching, and then branch into other states. Each state has a program like Voc Rehab does here in Utah. And I think what we've been able to do with the Y-Try and some of the other components that we're adding to this piece is I think we do this better than anybody else, where we provide them the tools with these kids and help them get placed. So we want to duplicate this here in the state more and then go into other states.
I would add this. This is another phrase I use a whole lot when I sit and talk with people. Everyone can do the same thing, and here's what I say. I say it's not what you do, it's how you do it. Growing up, your mom said, it's not what you said, it's how you say it.
Yeah.
Well, it's the same thing with action. Someone can go through the same class, same material, but if it's not taught in a certain way and the kids or the students don't feel like they're truly cared about, the how is much more critical.
It is. In fact, one of the things I've recently and again, I am building this as I go, Tom. This curriculum, the way I do it, the how behind it, I'm building this as I go. One of the most recent things is this thing called resiliency. The founder of Y-Try is a great friend named Christian Moore, and he just wrote a book on resiliency. And he argues that you get a Harvard 4.0 student, and then you get one of the kids I work with that maybe has some learning disabilities, has had kind of a rough background, and he argues that the kid I work with has a huge advantage over the Harvard 4.0 student. Because when something goes bad to that Harvard 4.0 student and some bad challenge happens to them in life, are they going to be able to be resilient and bounce back from that, or are they just going to crumble? Because life has been so easy for them. They have not had those challenges along the way that have built them up and made them resilient. But the kid I work with, man, these kids have been through a lot, Tom. I mean, their family background, the things that go on in their home and the things that have gone on in their lives in the past, they have been resilient. So, if we can channel that in a positive way, their resilience can turn them into something amazing. So this whole resiliency thing is key. And the kids we work with are
So
incredibly
let me say,
resilient.
teaching the kids, do you realize the leg up you have?
Exactly. That's what we do.
And they're like, what are you talking about? I've been stepped on my whole life, or I haven't had the opportunities like someone else. Well, guess what that's taught you? Resiliency. And
That's-
let me teach you something. And they're like, huh.
That's exactly what we
Well, I'll
do. We
be.
spin that, and it's a very real thing.
You bet.
We say, wait a minute, you have an advantage over this student over here that their life seems to be so incredibly easy. And the advantage is you're resilient. You'll bounce back from that. When something hits you in the face, you'll bounce right up.
Awesome.
And so we spin that because they need that. They do have a lot of things that others don't, and we need to tap into that.
This is 1340 AM KTMP, your hometown radio station here in Heber City. The show is brought to you by Guild Mortgage Company, closing loans and opening doors since 1960. So I want to go into a skill that I've watched you do, and I just go, are you serious? You like that part? Okay, let's go back to the business aspect for a second.
Okay.
Just the overall business aspect. One of the questions I would want to ask, I'm going to ask it, but I'm going to ask the question and then elaborate just a second on it. How did you get this thing off the ground? Now, you told us how you talked to somebody and someone gave you an idea of Voc Rehab, and what was the actual step to get this thing off the ground that you had to go do?
I had to just go talk to people. I mean, and that sounds,
That's it?
That sounds, yeah, very simple, but that's all it is. You know, the opportunity was there.
Mm-hmm.
What I did is I saw the opportunity and I thought, you know what, I think I need to take it to the next level with Why Try and the emotional and social intelligence. So I called the state. I said, hey, you know, look, tell me who I need to talk to. And I talked to one person and they said, you know, you really ought to talk to this person. And I talked to that person. They said, you know what, let me bring in this person. And then pretty soon I was clear to the top of the Utah State Office of Rehabilitation, which oversees Voc Rehab. And really, Tom, it's just about being persistent, being determined, and finding out who you need to talk to and going and talking to them.
So you cold called.
I cold called. Yeah. Which isn't fun for a lot of people, but
Except-
I like it.
That's what's so unique about this whole thing.
I know.
I've sat and talked with you, and I've listened to you and you go right over it. You're like, I don't think you even knew this. I said, time out when I'm listening to you talk to me about this. Time out. So you're okay knocking on a door, making a phone call to say, hey, can I come talk to you?
It's part of the disease, I think, Tom, but it's the excitement of making something happen. Again, I have this idea. I think it's a great idea. I think these kids need this emotional and social intelligence, and I'm going to go talk to somebody and make it happen. And when I have that meeting and they agree and they're like, wow, we need to make this happen, that is thrilling to me. That is exciting. That's what motivates me.
So the idea that you actually make phone calls, you make appointments, you find out who the decision maker is, and you found out the decision maker was some levels.
Yeah.
Because really, you had to get past first guy to go to second
And
guy
then
or
second
girl,
to third, and yeah.
third and fourth, and then
Work
it's
your
and
way
then
up.
it's a committee.
Exactly. And then it's a group you're meeting with. Exactly.
And then when you're done, there still is, well, let's make it a pilot and see how it goes. And then you have to prove yourself, and you have to come back next year and say, what do you think?
Yeah.
So it never really stops.
And really, to be honest, I enjoy that more than I do the management of the company and motivating the employees. And so I'm in the process of bringing somebody in that will be able to help us do that so that I can spend more of my time closing those deals and meeting with those decision makers.
And why would you do that? Why is that important for you to do that?
Because that's the way the company is going to continue to grow, and that is what I feel I like to do and that I'm good at.
So I'm going to put my 2 cents again in.
Okay.
The reason I invited Johnathan on here is I have heard about this business, and I think it's one of the coolest ones I've ever heard, and I've watched him do it, and I wanted you to hear it. That's what it was. And so as he's talking, I said to him, Johnathan, the fact that you're okay and like and good at making a cold call contact, a phone call, persistently and professionally going to the next level, you're wasting your time doing your own QuickBooks. You're wasting your time chasing around and teaching the classes just the way you would want it to be taught. You're wasting your time with all of the details. Most of us, if not all of us, would say, but this is mine, and I got to put my stamp on it, which is so true, by the way. And my advice to Johnathan was, You have got to clear your schedule so that all you do is set up the next appointment and go talk to them. Do you believe that?
I do. Yeah, I appreciated that advice, and it is a tough thing as an entrepreneur to let go.
Because you're in the next step. This is it. This is it.
And in the first phase of an entrepreneurship, you're doing everything.
Yep.
You are doing QuickBooks. You're taking out the garbage, figuratively speaking, but you're doing everything. And you've got to make that jump to the next step where you turn all that over to other people, and they're not going to do it like you did. And they're going to make mistakes, but they'll learn from that and be resilient from that. And so you've got to turn that over to them. So yeah, I wholeheartedly agree with that, Tom.
And you're okay with that? Do you like that idea that I spend the time doing the cold calling thing?
Yes, I love the idea. It's hard to let go of it, and we're in the process of going through that change so that the company will be able to grow. But that's the only way the company will truly grow. Otherwise, we're going to be limited by my time and my involvement. And there's only so many hours in the day, and so you've got to relinquish that to be able to have the company grow.
Explain why you want to expand outside or in addition to Voc Rehab.
Diversify. It really scares me to have a company that's, relying on the government. Even though this is a program in my mind makes a whole lot of sense because it's actually making money.
1 to 5.
You never know. You never know what the government's going to do. And so, yeah, I need to diversify. I need to get into some other areas of government. There's a lot that help this same type of audience. And then in the private sector as well, so that we can diversify what we're doing, so that if the government, for whatever reason, decides to, not that our government's in any trouble right now.
No.
But
fiscally responsible.
Yeah, but if they ever did do that, I would be okay because we would be diversified.
Tell me about the private sector. Where would you go? Where are you going to go? Where are you trying to go on the private sector?
You know what? A lot of troubled teen facilities. In fact, that's what I first learned about Why Try as I was touring a troubled teen facility. And I saw these posters up on the wall, and I asked what they were. But to hit those facilities and to teach what we're doing
like
there.
What? Are these drug rehabs? Are these
drug
private
rehabs,
jails? What are they?
Troubled teen facilities like,
like boys ranches?
Boys ranches,
Got
those
it.
type of facilities. I mean, there's several right here in our community. And they're unfortunately, it's a growing industry, Tom. And this problem is just going to get worse and worse with the drugs and just society as a whole. And so the private sector would be going to those facilities and directly to parents. I think a lot of parents would really benefit from this, and a lot of parents don't know where to turn. That's one of the most enjoyable parts of my job, aside from helping the kids, is to sit down with the parents. Tom, these parents don't know what to do.
Yeah.
Where their kids, they've struggled, and to be able to say, hey, listen, we can help by doing this and this and this. And I love that aspect of it too with the parents. And so to be able to work directly with the parents and help their kids get into successful employment and help their kids get vocational training and other things, and even help them get into these government programs or whatever else, just kind of hold the hand of the parents.
Who funds these facilities, these private facilities?
Those primarily they're privately funded. So these are wealthy parents. They are
it's
very
mom and
expensive.
Dad.
It's mom and dad. And, it's not uncommon to spend $4 or $5 grand a month to send your kid to one of these facilities. And, they do spend a lot of time with these kids. They help them. They do a lot of rehab. But here's what I don't like about that. Then you send the kid back to the same environment, same home environment, same friend environment. And even though you've spent however many months and however much money, you send them back in that same environment, and guess what?
Yep.
They're going to fall back into their same habits. And so what we need to do is change that environment. So when we send them back, if we can automatically get them into a job where they don't have that spare time, where they're exhausted when they come home, then we can really make a difference in that kid's life.
Maybe have their own place.
Exactly. If necessary, based on the home environment, yeah, they might need their own place. So that's the key, is to change their environment and to put them into a job. And I keep saying job, but I really do think that changes their environment more than anything else, and it gives them self-worth and self-confidence. These are hardworking kids. These are smart kids, but they just don't know it.
They just don't know it. So you say, I want to go to 1,000 kids here in the next little while. But it sounds like such a personal one-on-one situation to understand. How do you keep that one-on-one individual attention when you say I want to grow this business into 1,000 and plus?
Well, you definitely need the one-on-one personal interactions with the job coach and the kid, and the job coach and the parents. So the job coach, those are the critical one-on-one piece. Again, I need to step away from that and train others to do that. But so me personally, I will step away from that. I still will have some because I think I need that.
Sure.
But it's the job coaches that will need to have that ongoing.
Elaborate real quick on, so you talk about relationship with the parents, certainly in the relationship with the child. Tell me about how you actually go out and get relationships with employers.
Yeah. You know, what I have found with employers is the more upfront and honest you can be about the kids, the better. And, you know, I've used a variety of approaches. And at first I said, hey, this is what we do. I'll let you know when I find someone that might fit what your company is and what do you need, and listen to them and find out what they need. I found it's more successful when I can go in and say, listen, here is a kid I'm working with. Let me tell you about her. And I tell them everything about her. And if I can make it personal and say, I think she'd be a really good fit here for you. If I can talk specifically about a kid, I think that works a lot better. You know, and that's one of the most common things people ask me is, you know, who hires these kids?
Yeah.
Who in the world would hire
Who in the
these
world
kids?
would do that?
And how in the world do you go, again, the cold calling, how in the world do you go into an AutoZone or wherever, Staker Parsons or whoever the company is, and just talk to them about this? And that is one of the harder aspects, I think, for a lot of our job coaches. But boy, when you go in there and you're just up front with them, it's been pretty positive. They've been pretty receptive. And the companies that have hired our kids have really benefited from that. And there's been a lot in our community.
So a huge part is these kids don't know how to walk in and say, hey, I'd like a job. They don't know how to interview. They're nervous, scared, unskilled. So you actually go and open the door, allow the conversation. Hey, this person's coming. Then you go on with the kid and you say, okay, here's what's going to be required of you. Here's how. I remember talking to one of your kids, and you were teaching them how to be interviewed.
Yeah.
And he came into the class and he says, yeah, he asked me, what animal would you be and why? And another kid in class said, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. Yeah. And the kid, who had now had time understanding why, he goes, well, you may think that, but they're trying to get me to describe myself to them.
Exactly.
And that's one way to do it. And he's like, oh, well, still stupid, but maybe it makes sense.
And that's the emotional and social intelligence, understanding why behind it, and not just blowing it off as the dumbest thing ever. But, you know, and I would argue, Tom, that our kids, again, this whole resiliency thing, our kids will be better employers for a lot of these companies than the honor roll. I have to be careful about this because I'll offend your audience again. But again, we're talking about the types of jobs.
Right.
You know, a lot of our kids, college isn't in their future. They hate school. They are blue-collar, hard-working young men. And women. And women, yeah. And they are resilient. And so you put them into an environment, they're going to problem solve it. When something happens at the job site, to the machine or whatever, they're going to problem solve that, and they're going to be able to bounce back from that and really succeed in that workplace. Whereas, again, some of these that haven't built up that resiliency yet may not be able to problem solve that like our kids will.
I was over at the intermediate, Timpanogos Intermediate School, and there was an ACE award given out to one of the teachers and one of the assistants to the teachers. And what her job was to help out the at-risk kids to get their homework done, kind of get back on track. And two of those kids came in that, oh, here's two of them right here, they said. And they came by their teacher, and you could tell that the teacher loved the children, and the children loved the teacher. And I asked them a question, maybe it was a statement. I said, so you guys are out-of-the-box thinkers. You have a hard time sitting in a chair and being told what to do, how to do it, and when it's due. Is that correct? And they're like, yep. And I said, well, I'd be excited to watch you two in the next few years, because if you're out-of-the-box thinkers, that's how you get somewhere in this world.
Yeah.
And I remember they were kind of like, oh, okay, maybe my problems can actually be a positive.
Yeah.
Maybe what I have here is a skill that has been squashed, and it doesn't fit because I don't know it. I don't understand it. and have a place to go, Innovative Harbor, Why Try class, where you can say, I need to figure out what it is that I have, what it is I can do. And you know what I found? These skills, so if they're resilient or they understand social and intelligence, blah, blah, blah stuff you talked about, doesn't mean they have to be just a welder. That is stuff that goes across the board.
For sure.
You can do anything if you understand that stuff.
Yeah.
So I will only be this because that's what my dad is. Well, let's try some other things. You might be really good over here. And have someone to teach them that and show them that.
Yeah, and the discussions we have in those classes, you've been in those, it's just fascinating. And these kids will open up into their lives, and once they grasp that they are an out-of-the-box thinker and that they have a leg up over some of the other kids that are perceived as having a huge leg up over them, boy, once we educate them on that, the light comes on and the self-confidence starts to just flourish, and that's where it gets really fun, because that's when, again, they come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking of college. And a year ago, there's no way she would have thought of that.
And the cool thing is that in her own process, she thought of it.
Exactly.
It was then her idea,
she came
rather
up
than
with this.
someone forcing you. You know, you need, what we do as parents is we react and we say, well, you need to shape up and you need to get your life in order and you need to go to college. Well, they're not going to by that because it's not their idea and because
you told them to.
And you told them to. And if you allow them a place to go to process through, be a little patient and understand it.
Yeah.
And you've made this into a business.
And I've made it into a business. It's been a lot of fun. A lot of fun.
And the potential is exponential, really.
Again, it's a growing market. You know, these kids, if we don't help them while they're young, you know, we talk about using taxpayer dollars. You know, let's think about that for a minute. If we don't help these kids when they're 16, 17, 18, they're going to be in the system. I mean, our inmate population continues to grow and grow and grow, and that's going to be a huge problem down the line. And so if we don't throw some resources at helping these kids, then we're going to have a bigger problem down the road. So
I know you had a choice to make a while ago of who, there's such a huge demographic that really needs this, but you decided to go with 16 to 24 at risk. Yeah. Is it so that you can actually hopefully stop the flow?
Exactly. I mean, the state has asked me to go into the correctional space, and I will in time, but you're exactly right. They are so impressionable. They are so teachable. You get into a class with these kids, and you can really make a difference and change lives, and that's what we're all about, is changing the lives. And this 16 to 24-year-old, I think, yields the biggest return for that.
What's going to be fun is I'm going to ask you to come on the show at least every year.
Well, I'll ask for my wife's permission. It depends on how well I did today. She
didn't offend the family or ruin the family name. That's true.
But if she's okay with that, Tom, I'll consider it.
Because I'm just so excited to watch this particular business grow and become what it is because of what it's doing. And so, truly, thank you.
Well, thank you for having me on the show. I appreciate what you're doing as well.
What's your final word? You know, if I was to say one last final thing, it would be,
I would say just don't let anybody else tell you can't do something. Just go do it. Don't let a fear stop you. Just go do it. You know, whatever you feel like you need to do. I think a lot of people are they're scared by what other people say. They're scared what they fear. I would just say don't let that stop you. You just move forward and you do what you need to do.
Awesome. Well, this is KTMP 1340 AM, your hometown radio station, and the show is brought to you by Guild Mortgage Company. Your loan on time, every time. Today's show, Guild Mortgage Company, NMLS 3274 Equal Housing Lender, and Tom Stone, NMLS 257849. The information contained in this training has been prepared and distributed for educational purposes only and do not represent the opinions of Guild Mortgage Company. That's my disclaimer in case you said something that would get me in trouble.
I probably did.
Just in case. That's my disclaimer. Well, again, thank you very much. This is just so exciting and so fun to hear about. And I got to add something else, and I probably should make more of a point to this. This is another Wasatch High School graduate who's truly going out in the world and making a difference. And I am a huge fan of every single opportunity. I had the FBLA officers on a couple weeks ago.
Oh, great.
And it was just fun to hear what they want to do in life and where they're going. And it isn't just, I want to this. Their conversations were about how I want to go help change the world. Yeah. And this isn't just an individual, how I'm going to make me better, but it's how I'm going to make myself better along with